Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, what again? A great show for you today. As usual, my friends, as usual, how's everybody doing? Welcome aboard. Oops, I got to open up the chat. Welcome aboard, AVQ from Brooklyn, New York. Numero uno in the chat. We also have, says, so what's the heck is going on with the government shutdown? Nothing is going on. Nothing. I do think that the Democrats are playing it better than I expected them to play it thus far. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia is in the house. Lee Grant from Montgomery County is in the house. We also have a bit Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia in the house. Gene Daigle from Alvin, Texas in the house says, hello, PDR Posse. Where he says he's watching live from the FB feed. I met Neil Aquino this past Saturday. Neil is a great guy. Where'd you guys meet? I had him on the show early this morning. Lee Grant says, I hope Hamas will accept it. Pope Leo praises Trump's Gaza plan. I disagree with Leo on that, but I agree with Leo on so much more. It's amazing. Now on our Substack, we lose the first few hundred dozens. Now we have Judy from Hyde Park, New York. How you doing, Judy? Carol Seymour, Deborah Ann, Catherine Thomas, Jerry Paris, Doug Dollar, Mary Adamski, Erin Bishop. Those of you who come early, remember I get a chance to call you guys out. Do you lie? Well, do you lie? If I had an assistant, I could wrap things up. But as I've been processing videos all the way up until it started, remember, this stuff is on yours truly. So have some compassion. Do you lie? Mary Shaw, how you doing, Mary Shaw? Welcome aboard. As well, Margaret Ryan. Everyone who is listening, please subscribe to Egberto as his one-man show and supports Dialogue with Truth. Also contribute to public radio by supporting KPFT. And support us here as well. Remember, at KPFT, everything given to KPFT goes directly to KPFT. Everything given to Politics Done Right here as a subscription to Politics Done Right, the Egberto Off the Record newsletter, that supports the show proper. KPFT supports the entire radio, which we must do, as well as please support the show here at KPFT Local. Thank you so kindly, Margaret Ryan, for pointing that out. Angie Decadence. I just like that name. Decadence, right? Or we being decadent. Carol Seymour is from Shreveport, Louisiana. You know, I have family in Keachai, Louisiana. Spell Keatchie, I believe. Keachai, Louisiana. Not too far from Shreveport. In fact, I go out to Shreveport quite often. So whenever we go to Keachai, we go to Shreveport. Guys have some good food in Shreveport, you know. Good food in Shreveport. All right, Shreveport, Louisiana, nice place. Bean Pan, welcome aboard. All right, let's get busy. I'm going to start where Michael Rudnin started. He said, "What's this with the shutdown?" Let me tell you that I didn't know where to fall on the shutdown. I really did not know where to come down on the shutdown. But I think I finally decided to come down on the side of, I am glad you guys implemented the shutdown, because no matter what the results are, it put enough chaos to say we're not just going to sit down. Now, here's the problem. It's going to create a lot of pain for government workers that aren't going to be paid, but they will be paid. Ultimately, they will get their back pay. The problem that all those companies that depend on the spending that these people go to, restaurants and clubs and all of that won't be done because of that delay. While it will be a saving it was likely be an implicit saving for the person who isn't working, but that's going to get their back pay. That is money gone forever from those people. So it will reduce our economy. But that said, the cause is to highlight something that I think we should all remember, and here it goes. If the pressure is not applied to get those subsidies reinstated, I want you guys to understand something that is deadly serious here. All the tax breaks for the wealthy people were made permanent. again, I repeat, all the tax breaks for the wealthy folks that happened in the big ugly bill were made permanent. All these subsidies for Obamacare, the addition to the subsidies, were made temporary so that they could get enough votes to get the bill through. I want you guys to understand that whenever we're making policy for the wealthy, we make it permanent, hard to stop. Whenever we're making policy for the working class, it's temporary to give them a gimmick. It is like Donald Trump's no tax on tips. That only lasts until his last year in office. Think about that. But the other parts of the bill, the tax breaks for the wealthy corporations, permanent. Remember that no tax on overtime? Yeah, it's only temporary for the working class. But guess what? It is great for the corporations. They get it all permanent. And to show you the sickness in many of our heads, there will be 300K that will be fired. And he says it with glee, that 300K people are going to be fired from the government. Do you think Donald Trump needed a shutdown to fire those 300,000 government workers if he actually gets to do it? He doesn't need that. The Supreme Court has been allowing him to do whatever he wants to do. What we must have is a change in the country. That's what we must have. Michael Renner said, Mike, he just said something that's factually correct. A rarity for him. Reuters, Trump is already on track to push out 300,000 federal workers by the end of the year. And, you know, they see that as something to rejoice for. They want to rejoice for making government less people friendly. What do you think happens with 300,000 less government workers? And that is spread out throughout the country. And who do you think suffers more? In rural areas where you may have a small tax office, cutting folks in that small tax office may mean a 50% reduction. You know, people don't really use their heads. The people that suffer from all these cuts are mostly people in red states. They did a special on MSNBC in Ogden, Utah. Ogden, Utah, the biggest employer is, guess who? The government. They always like to talk in these conservative areas about the government. But the person that is sustaining the companies that pay enough money to support the restaurants and thrift shops in downtown Ogden are the government workers. So as these guys push things like, oh, the government this and the government that, rarely do they realize that most of the productivity and a lot of the income in these rural areas, these rural communities, come from the Social Security office workers, come from the Farm Bureau office workers, come from the tax office workers, and all these guys that are what? Government workers. And you know what? They make good salaries compared to working at the thrift store that pays minimum wage. These guys make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, which gives them enough dispersible income, free income to use at these thrift shops. But again, these guys are, what can I say, right? So anyway, folks, as far now, Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard, my brother. Bruce think it's a waste. I think I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, my dear brother Bruce. I think this centrist thing about what's going on here just has not worked. The middle class continues to pay the price. Folks are going to have to show that they are willing to pay a bigger price. And not just a bigger price. Here's the other thing. Eventually, the parasite class will realize that, in fact, we understand that they know they're parasites, but now we know. And I want that to be absolutely clear. The vast majority of the billionaire class, the vast majority of the obscenely wealthy class did not earn their monies. They are, in fact, parasites. Anybody wants to call in and discuss that? Please feel free. They are the parasite class. As Bean Pan puts it, the predatory oligarchs. Thank you, Bean Pan, in the chat. Very good way of expressing it. Don Buckler says back pay. Okay, but what about those who have been or will be fired, and if rehired, at what fiscal costs? I agree, but what would you suggest, Mr. Buckler? Please give me a call if you have another suggestion. At times when sacrifices need to be made. I mean, I would like to know that. Egberto, Carl Cox is in the house. He says, from Riverdale, Georgia. How you doing, Carl? Welcome to have you here. Yeah, so no, the left is not the paradise class. Welcome aboard, Hirut Kidem Miriam. Love to have you here. Thank you so kindly for being here, my dear lady. All right, look, today I heard something from the Pope that made my day. I want you guys to listen to this and tell me what you think. So here goes the Pope. Pope Leo gets even more profound than Pope Francis did. What he did is expose the hypocrisy, the sheer evil of those who lead the right, whether they be MAGA, conservative, right-wing, conservative, evangelical, religious folks, or whatever. And it was simple. It was just a matter of pointing out how can they be against abortion but support these other things. I want you to listen, then we'll take it on the other side.
Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life.
This can be expanded into a whole lot of things, right? How can you be pro-life when you don't support programs that give the poor food? How can you be pro-life if you don't support the expansion to the Affordable Care Act that gives insurance that saves people's lives? How can you be pro-life if you force a woman to not take care of her own body even as something is dead inside of her? How can you be pro-life if you are deporting people, throwing them to the ground and putting them in Alligator Alley and making jokes about the alligators eating them if they attempt to escape? How can you be pro-life if you go ahead and the policies you support harm people, kill people, maim people? How can you be pro-life if you throw razor sharp barriers in a river that has killed and would continue to kill people? How can you be pro-life and support all those things? They love to call themselves pro-life, but what they are is pro-death. Rugged, false individualism. Let's not be fooled. Don't allow yourself, those of us that are moral, don't allow them to cloak liberalism. Don't allow them to cloak progressivism into some mantra that isn't what they are. We know those that are progressive, those that believe in humanity, do not allow their false beliefs, false theology that even the Pope went ahead and threw down on. Don't allow it to somehow change who we are. Be proud to be liberal. Be proud to be progressive. Be proud to be humane. Be proud to be moral. That the standard bearers of these people, the persons that they look up to, is a guy named Donald Trump and a martyr in their eyes named Charlie Kirk should tell you all you need to know about that movement. And that's a fact. When your standard bearer is it was called a rapist by a judge, was convicted of several felonies, is a multiple cheater, when that is your standard bearer, as well as when your standard bearer is somebody who says women should go to college just to get a man who says he wouldn't fly, is concerned when a black person is flying a plane, a person who calls the well-studied Supreme Court justice some sort of doesn't have the brain and is himself a college dropout. When those are your standard bearers, there is absolutely something wrong with your movement. Because I tell you one thing, if I had a son, the two people that I would least want him to listen to and worse, even look up to, is Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. Those are what I would call the diametrical opposite of what a humane, moral human being should try to emulate. And that is their standard bearer. That says much. All right, folks. Anyway, we have to take back. We have to take back what's ours. We cannot allow people to redefine what is good. And progressives and liberals that are listening to me out there, remember, you are good. Talk to me, John.
Yes. There is a moral standard, and hypocrisy shouldn't be allowed to exist, in our world. But unfortunately, as we talked before, you have to allow something negative to happen to these people to wake them up, because they are not listening to the facts. They're not listening to morality. They don't care if it hurts women, black people, immigrants. They don't care about the truth. All they care about is whatever comes out of Fox News and Donald Trump. So this is a really interesting conundrum, that has been repeated in history, apparently. And I find it very depressing because I usually do change my mind when, the facts, come out that, no, that's just not correct.
When you learn new things, when you learn things that you didn't know before. I mean, it's like, and I always give this testimony. I'm going to let you speak again, but I want to give, because we always have newcomers, I always give this testimony. I am from the part of the world that is homophobic, sexist, etc. I came to the United States. I was around the correct crowd that first of all bashed me for my bad ways of being. And made sure I was reformed and made sure I atoned. Right. And in being atoned, became one of the biggest gay rights activists and feminist activists. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have to say, I mean, I've probably been bigoted. I have been hypocritical myself. And I like to grow as a person, as a human being. I'm 69, and I feel like the work of developing yourself and, your moral compass is never done.
Right.
But for a lot of people, they they just simply, oh yeah, this is it. And then, often they have no angst in life. They have no, there's no anxiety for them because they just repeat the same thing over and over again. And the only way that they wake up is that they get like really slapped down. And then they might actually, wake up themselves. And this is a problem for democracy because people seem to choose, there's a documentary now. They're doing a revamp of 1984. Actually, it's, covering George Orwell's life. And, the whole trajectory that he went through as a colonial Britisher in the, colonial police in Burma, and just the hideous things that he was forced to do until he started to question, why are we doing these things? This is wrong.
Let me just say, let me say this. Okay, there are two groups of our MAGA base. The people, anybody that's let's call it a MAGA base. They're the ones that are just ignorant, and as they learn things, they change. And I'm going to play you a piece that I did in the morning that shows how change occurs. That is a person that is willing to listen, willing to examine. I had 2 callers yesterday that proved that there are people who are the way they are because of bad information, and when good information comes, they change. Then you have some like the sycophants that we have. We have a couple of sycophants in our chat that the way they are wired, right? They have no desire, they have no desire for truth. They have no desire for intelligent thought. So they keep regurgitating the same thing. There's a certain percentage of America that is like that. We cannot do anything about that, John. But guess what? The good thing about it is that 70% of Americans don't fall into that category. And there's a certain demographic that fits that profile. And it's a demographic that I think, I think that programming that has occurred to them for such a long time between them and their families, etc., is a reason for that. But John, I got to continue doing some videos and stuff. So
one more thing. I guess I'm not as optimistic as you, but I like to believe that 70% of the population, when given the correct information, will change their mind. But I guess I'm rather pessimistic.
Well, let me tell you what. Let me positivize you, okay? Let me positivize you, my brother. Here's this.
Yes.
Remember this. These guys are loud and boisterous. Most people don't say anything. So they are overperforming with their boisterousness. However, progressives have a tendency to be quiet. Progressives accept when they're pushed. And the average American citizen just takes stuff. They don't fight back. Yeah. It's sort of a complacency. They're not bad people. It's just a complacency. But in talking to people, thousands of people over the years, thousands of people, I think that's a good sample. That's a good sample that I've got. And I can tell you that most people, even those that use, let me just give you an example. I was showing a neighbor this yesterday. I got a message from a real MAGA guy that his 2 sons just signed up for the military. And he knows who I am. He knows what I preach, but he always makes sure to stay in touch. And he sends me this picture with him and his kids. And he said, check this out, Egberto. I replied to him, proud of you, proud of your sons. And he said, but we're still Republicans. And I'm like, and I still love you. And the thing about it is the conversation was there, and he saw my daughter at a place, at a store one time. And my daughter's kind of disabled. And he sat down, had a long conversation with her, and they talked a little bit of politics, where they differed. But he had her back as she's disabled at the place. He had her back. And what I'm saying is, look, don't let the loudmouth or some of the folks that you see in the chat that there's nothing positive about them. You can see in their minds that they're evil beings. Most Americans aren't like that. So just put that in your pipe and smoke it, brother. Okay.
Well, I come from a background, people who suffered under the Nazis.
I got you.
Suffered, and in Russia, lived through the siege of Leningrad and all these horrible events. And I guess it shakes my faith in human beings, but I'm optimistic in that I think in the end, as Gandhi said, the truth always comes out. It just seems like it's over a lot of dead bodies, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that part is true. Unfortunately, that part is true. But thank you for your call, Brother John. Always like hearing from you, okay? Take care now.
Yep, yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, I want to read something from Radnan. He says, Egberto, please read out for Lee Grant after the caller. The core to progressivism is to get big money corruption out of politics, establish federally funded elections, maximize eligible citizens' voter turnout, and to improve economic conditions for all our citizens, including Medicare for all, living wages, and infrastructure investment, which includes throwing the whole kitchen sink at global warming. Do tell, what's cloaked in woke? In other words, anybody who doesn't agree 100% with what you have just said. Hey, by the way, Anthony DeFranco says that you don't sound anywhere over 40, John. Anyway, so who could possibly not agree with what Brother Radnan just defined as what progressives really represent? Only someone who doesn't care about humanity could possibly not agree with that. But anyhow, to get back on the point with my brother John, where I tell him people change. I want you to listen to this exchange. I have another one, but I wasn't able to clean it up in time. I started cleaning it up, and then I got caught in time. This is an interface with a caller at KPFT in the mornings, okay? And this just shows you how MAGA will listen. A particular percentage of them will. I have another one as well. The problem is that they're fed with so much disinformation. And notice I didn't say misinformation. I said they're fed with so much disinformation, purposefully bad information that is psychologically messes with their psyche and reprograms their mind. And it's for us to deprogram it. Check this out, then we'll take it on the other side. Gail, you're on.
I do not mean to elevate your blood pressure anymore. However, there is a question that I have that I just need to unload.
Before you continue, Gil, please don't ever think you have to hold back what you want to say. Please, I like the free thoughts, okay? So go for it, my brother.
I was speaking to my neighbor last night. Can you explain to me the hypocrisy about Bernie Sanders owning mansions, Pelosi being a millionaire because of behind the scenes or behind the deals of her office? The criticism that I get when they tell me that illegals were giving free housing, welfare, federal assistance, while we had to work our butts off to, pay our own bills. Can you explain to me what is the reality of all of that?
Thank you very much for that. And first of all, let's take Pelosi first, okay? Pelosi came straight out and said, when it came to being able to trade bonds, being in the Congress, and they don't have any rules that they have to follow, I am a capitalist. And she went on and said that I am completely opposed to what Pelosi did in that regards. I think any politician who goes out there and believe in trading when they're on the floor, etc., that's not my kind of politician. Now, that doesn't make me disrespect Pelosi for all the good things she have done for the middle class. But she has a definite blind spot and is absolutely wrong on that issue. When it comes to Bernie Sanders and how Bernie Sanders built his wealth by writing his book and selling his book and that sort of stuff, I don't have a problem. If you recall, Jeff called earlier and talked about being a blue collar worker, putting his money into investments, making quite a bit of money, living mostly off of investments, etc. I don't have a problem with that. The wealthy class use people like Jeff as tools because they make them believe that progressives like me are after their earned income. And heard what I just said? Earned income. Billionaires didn't earn their income. Bernie Sanders wrote a book, sold a book. Even somebody like, let's say, Beyonce and Oprah and others, who they go out and perform and they earned. I think there needs to be some clapback because the airwaves that Oprah made her billions off of and the cameras that take her image elsewhere, those people have not been compensated. So we do need to have an adjustment to how we talk about your worth and how you make money. That's why some of us support things like basic income, etc., to cover those issues that says I can invent something and somebody else make billions off of it, and I'm never compensated for my invention the way the corporate structure works. That's one of the issues. So no, I'm not in favor of what Pelosi is doing. Bernie Sanders earned his money. Bezos did not. When it comes now to illegal issues now, like illegal aliens, etc., that you call them, I am a naturalized American citizen that did it the way that, that the government says to do it. I did it the right way. By the way, the Pilgrims didn't, but I did it the right way. And here's the thing. The lie is that when undocumented workers come over here, they get money and they get all these things. That's false. When asylum seekers come over here, they get those things because that is international law. If you go over to Germany, the same thing applies. If you go over to England, the same thing applies. Asylum seekers, that is what we're talking about. And while we're trying to figure out, because our system is so behind, because we're a humane country, while we're trying to determine if people are asylum seekers or not, we do one of two things. We actually allow them to go to work by giving them temporary visas to work. But if we can't give them temporary visas to work and we can't send them back to the country, we do take care of them. Now, there are some issues that you can talk about in Chicago, in New York, etc., where you have people trying to find homes. And then these folks are bussed into Chicago and they get taken care of. That creates a justifiable animosity. And what we should be doing is we should not have American citizens living in poverty, because again, it puts danger onto our humanity at large. Did I answer any of your questions at all, Brother Gil?
Yes, indeed you did. And I suspected all along that might have been the case when I was right now. I did not know about the international rule of law regarding asylum seekers.
I know they don't want you to know that, sir.
However, that doesn't give us the right, or any other country the right, to treat a human being inhumanely.
Thank you. Gil, do you notice something, Gil? You thought you called here for us to have a fight. And I think what you have proven is we don't necessarily have to agree 100%. But basically, because we all have for those of us who have humanity, when we actually understand things the way they really are and not the way they're programming us to be, we're actually pretty much thinking the same, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you for your call, my dear brother. And I need to get to some other calls and we don't have a lot of time. So thank you for calling. There you go. So one of the things that there's another one that I'm going to play. I'll clean it up tomorrow and play it. And by the way, do you lie? I don't have to get consent for a public call that somebody put into the inner space. This call can be found in our archive at KPFT or anywhere in the Pacifica Network, etc. Once you call into a radio show, whatever you say on that radio show is heard all over the world. And let me see what else I hear. The other thing that you said in there is Para ver, middle. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Do you lie? But what's done here is just perfectly correct. So I don't know what you're really complaining about. All right, let's and do what you must do. Do you lie? Please. I am very fair in what I do, and I respect everybody, as you saw in that call, sir. Absolute respect to everybody. All right, let's continue. Let's see what else I got here. I can't believe this. Now, a lot of people always, and this is what you don't get from the, when you hear these stories, right? You don't hear the truth about, they try to make it look like somehow these undocumented workers come over here and they get all these things. When people come over the borders, they come over either as undocumented workers, meaning, just crossing the border, or they come over here looking for asylum. And when they look for asylum, what they do is they simply, what's the word that I want to use? When they come for asylum, they have to be determined if it's real asylum. That's what the person is supposed to do. Now, here's the funny part about it. This is a law. The responsibility of countries toward asylum seekers is not just a matter of choice or charity. It's grounded in international law. Hello, Twitch. How you guys doing? E2247 on Twitch. I didn't see you before, but thank you for AVQ for warning me that I should salute my Twitch people as well. Heal OW, welcome aboard. Do you support Palestine? Of course I support Palestine. Who else is on Twitch? So Twitch folks, thank you for being here as well. We have people on Twitch, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, all the other lives. So thank you guys. All right, continuing with international, the responsibility of countries toward asylum seekers is not just a matter of choice or charity. It is grounded in international law, humanitarian principles, and moral obligation. And its core lies in the 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol, which most nations have ratified. These instruments establish clear duties that states must uphold when people flee persecution, war, or violence. And here's a portion that people don't know. Basic human protections is a part of that law. And it goes as follows. While their status is determined, in other words, while you're waiting for their status to determine, asylum seekers have the right to humane treatment, including access to adequate food, shelter, healthcare, and education, protection from violence, exploitation, and human trafficking, respect for family unity, including the right to family reunification. What this tells you is the policies that Donald Trump is implementing by breaking families apart, by splitting these people up, violates international law. It is evil, it is inhumane, and it takes us out of the realm of legality with national law. And we are doing that because of the evil of the right. These things have been going on. We've been treating folks correctly for years. But now what the right has done is fooled Americans into believing that we're doing something special. We just want to give free money to undocumented workers. That's not it. We are simply fulfilling international law. That is what humane countries signed with the United Nations. This is how we will treat people that say they're coming here for asylum. Can it be abused? Yes. And that's why you have ways to get around the abuse. It's that simple. Anyhow, I've got one more video before we finish. But before I go, if anybody else wants to call in real quick, let's see. Margaret says, oh, you lie in. Texting cannot convey your thoughts. Very, very true. Very, very true. Let's see. Yes, I am listening when I'm free and interrupt folks. So I don't understand what's going on here. Welcome aboard, Wendy, Sandra, and anybody that I forgot to call in. Welcome aboard. Let me play that last video. Let's see. I think it's here. Let's go ahead and do it now. This is the one where MSNBC, a mainstream media organization, did the right thing. They did the right thing. Check this out. Lately, I've been stressing that it's imperative that the independent media really get engaged, because the mainstream media isn't hitting back, as we get the lies from the right wing as they mislead the citizenry, etc. But when the mainstream media does something that is extraordinarily well done, I think it's important that we point that out. And that is what just happened. And that's why I'm releasing this right now. I want you to listen to how MSNBC, I think it's Ms. Cabrera, interrupted the press conference by the Johnson, the Speaker of the House, to tell the truth to the American people. This is what the mainstream media should have been doing ages ago, from the time that Obamacare was coming into existence, from the time that the IRA was coming into existence. This is what they should do. Listen here, then we'll take it on the other side.
How dug in are they? Let's listen in to Speaker Johnson.
Make them answer for that. Don't ask the Republicans what we should be doing or what we should be negotiating. I don't have anything to negotiate. I sent them in good faith exactly what they had voted for before. We did not put any Republican provisions in that. And we tried to make this very simple, in good faith, so the appropriations process of the people can continue. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, they say that we're making this up, this illegal aliens receiving taxpayer benefits. It's a talking point, they said. I want to remind you of a couple of key facts. Everybody can remember, I think, back to 2020, in the presidential debate for all the candidates on the Democrat side. You might remember famously, they were asked the question, raise your hand, they said on the stage, if you believe that illegal aliens should receive health care paid for by American taxpayers. Every single one of them raised their hand, to great applause in the audience from the Democrats who were there. Those hands included Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, what did they do? Did they follow through on that promise? Yeah, they absolutely did. Joe Biden used executive orders, and he expanded benefits, health care to illegal aliens in his 4-year term. That was an outrageous violation of the existing federal law.
Okay, I want to pull out just to make sure we don't offer misleading information when it comes to what the facts are and what the laws are. I can tell you that the U.S. law prohibits undocumented immigrants from gaining federally subsidized health care, whether that's Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, Children's Health Insurance Program, or otherwise. It's actually a 1996 law that establishes that, and the Democrats aren't looking to change that law. And as far as the Affordable Care Act subsidies, there is no access for undocumented immigrants to get Obamacare. That's just the fact.
Thank you, MSNBC. Let's hope the rest of the mainstream media will use this as a template to not let the lies metastasize throughout the American psyche. The independent media will be here continuously giving fact-based information on these charlatanes. But thank you. And once again, thank you, mainstream media. And for all of those out there, when we're critical of the mainstream media, let's make sure that it is a valid criticism. And when they do what they're supposed to do, when they do real, truthful journalism, let's make it clear that they are doing just that. Thank you. All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Anyway, folks, so I mean, Ana Cabrera did a very good job today. I was shocked because as the speaker was talking, Speaker Johnson, my blood started to boil as soon as he lied about what Biden was doing, etc. And then right then Cabrera came in and said, I'm not going to let these lies get through. Let's tell you what the facts are. And we need to have that done more often. You guys have seen me take clips out of the mainstream media all of the time and do that correction, if you will. I wish more of the mainstream media did that in real time, because what happens is people listen to this and they don't get the corrections in real time. And by the time somebody else does it, it's all gone. Right? So that is what we have to get away from. Michael, I would agree that we should pass a Medicare for all national healthcare system. And that issue is a wedge between progressives who want government help everyone against the establishment neoliberals who wouldn't help immigrants and refugees. Funny thing, this should be also a moral issue for so-called Christians, as Jesus would have repeatedly told them. Look, we have to realize that our churches, or the vast majority of our churches, are not churches. They're capitalist institutions with a church facade. That's it. They're capitalist institutions used as a tax break with Christian facades. That's what they are. The rich people in the church use the church as a tax break. They use the schools at the church for a stock break. They use a tax break. That's what they are. There are few churches that are really there to do what they claim to be God's will. But you listen to them speak about the poor. You listen to them speak about all these issues. There's no similarity between them and Jesus Christ. Now you listen to a progressive, someone that doesn't even necessarily believe in organized religion, and they are practicing Jesus's will. It's amazing, isn't it? The ones that are not going to church often, that doesn't have prayer on their sleeves, that are not trying to get the 10 Commandments in church, those are the ones that are actually doing things that Jesus would do. Feed the poor. Nobody's a foreigner. I mean, those are God's words according to the Bible they support. Yet they don't live it. And you want to know why the church population is declining? I mean, the people have already realized that for most of these mega churches and otherwise, they're nothing but, again, remember, they are Christians' facades for a tax break. That's it. Christian facade for a tax break. Brother Ray Brackens, how you doing, sir?
I've been busy putting in work for Mr. Isaiah Martin running for Congress.
Good. That's going to be an interesting election in November.
Yes, it is. Indeed. Got a lot of work, but we believe it's a willing cause to fight for, to have somebody who's going to represent the district that's actually going to have a spine.
Well, good. I mean, I interviewed him. He was a good interview, very good interview, very smart guy. And I am not taking sides in that particular race because it's not my district. I think you have 3 good, solid people running. I mean, there are a lot of people running, thousands. I mean, about a dozen or so. But there are 3 main candidates in there that I like, and he's one of them.
I hear you, Berto, and I'm just speaking as a paid organizer. So of course, I'm biased, but I wanted to speak on the guy that you had talked to on the morning show.
Yes, sir.
I remember there was a guy he was talking about. I don't like the fact that I build up my retirement. I work hard. I stash my money away. So why can't everybody else? Why can't they be diligent like I am and stash their money and work hard. And I love how you kind of brought that gentleman back and you said, look, that's great that you're working hard, you're stashing money away. You have the luxury to do that. And a lot of people don't. So the way you sneer at people who basically are just trying to scrape by and get what they can get, you're looking down on them, saying they're the problem and they're the reason why your money, like basically what that gentleman was saying is that if, you know, he has to work hard and put his money away, shouldn't nobody get a freebie. And I mean, y'all both agreed on that. But what he failed to realize is nobody is coming for his little 10 million, 1 million, whatever dollar nest egg. Nobody is coming for that. When it comes to progressive policy, we're coming for the big fish. We want the beluga whales. We want the dolphins. We don't want the people that, we know the people that's working hard to scrape by and get what they can have so they can retire comfortably. But those aren't the people that as progressive have a vested interest in coming for. It's Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk of the world. But yeah,
Ray, and the difference is the difference is very important, right? Because that guy that called in that was so scared that progressives want to take his money, that's what the billionaire wants him to believe, right? It's important for what you just said for them to realize that we don't want to disincentivize hard work. We don't want to disincentivize savings. We don't want any of that. What we're trying to say is what Elon Musk and these guys are doing isn't savings, isn't putting away for the rainy day. That's not what they do. They are extractive. They are the word. What's the word? They actually have not earned. Go ahead. Sure.
They're hoarding wealth. That's what they.
Yes.
You know that show Hoarders, where people have the horrible. Yes. That's them. But just imagine all the possessions those people have is just money. That's what they're doing. They're just stashing money unnecessarily, keeping it out of circulation so nobody else can have it. And they don't have any plans that they are going to be able to spend all of that money. What can a person do with $1 billion? That's $1,000 billion.
I want to qualify this a bit better though, my brother, because if somebody was able to work 24/7 and earn that $1 billion, right? I would say, well, you work harder than anybody else and you earned it. But that's not what the wealthy and billionaires do. Let me give it the fact. Let me tell you this. Donald Trump used to like to say, I am smart. I don't pay taxes and I make my money work for me. That is a definition of a parasite. Money cannot work for you. When you say money works for you, you are saying that you are taking a piece of the action of somebody else. And that's what it's saying. And again, we use terminologies and we've learned to accept terminologies that really are extractive and parasitic. And we don't see it because we're so used to it that we don't understand it. But anyway, I'm at the close of my show, my dear brother. Thank you for calling and bringing that subject up. All right.
All right, brother. I'll keep listening. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, brother.
I'll be back same time next show.
Absolutely, buddy. Anyway, thank you very much. Anyway, folks, I mean, it's so important for us to understand that we are not after money people have earned. We want people who have used the system itself. We want the people who have misused the system to get wealth on other people's back, to give it back, to pay it back. And we need the laws changed so that we don't get billionaires. Again, billionaires didn't make that was a system that was designed to extract, to take away. It's not earned. And trying to teach people the severity of how that affects all of us is what's difficult. But anyway, I got to get out of here. Please support the program however you can. You can support the program by becoming paid subscribers. And again, we have a lot to learn, folks. We got a lot to learn. Sorry for backing up, going back on that again, but I need to say this because what the elite in our society has done to the masses, the indoctrination that will constantly have them work against your own interests is something that shows like mine and others, economists like Richard Wolff, we are trying to mitigate that damage. Because when you hear that, I'm going to go over a minute because I really want to say this. When you hear, and please stay with me, guys, just another minute. When you hear that, don't worry about the other person's wealth. Don't worry about that other person. Just concentrate about what you have. Because the economic system is closed. The world economic system is closed. All right? Already the United States takes much more of its share based on exploitation and all these things out of the system. Okay. But we can only work with what's here in America. Eric, is not jealousy. Jealousy assumes that that other person earned it. Now, what happens, what we've learned here is the following. We have learned that the people who created the economic system created such a system where others could make their fortune not on what they know, not on what they produce from their own work, but just in the mere fact that they initially control capital. And it didn't matter how they get the capital. As an example, let's look at the King Ranch in West Texas. Hundreds of thousands of acres that they did not earn, they took. But now having those hundreds of thousands of acres of land, they can leverage that land to let other people work for them, right? And they make a cut of everything else. How did they get the capital in the first? It's not like it was accumulated capital based on the work that they did. And we have that in every domain, a constancy. And so when I say we need to tax the wealthy, a lot of people go back and say, well, suppose I get wealthy, you're going to want to tax me. No. If you get wealthy on your work, there's no taxing, inordinate taxing of you. As long as you're paying your fair share. To get wealthy, you had to ride the roads. You had to drive those roads. You had to pump more carbon into the air. So as long as you pay your taxes to mitigate those things, make as much as you want to make. But these guys that are billionaires, they don't do that. They don't even pay taxes. They borrow against their capital that will never be paid. But most people don't know that, so they support that kind of stuff. What we try to do here at Politics Done Right is enlighten people. Let people know about these things that they do that actually cause us to not be able to build the wealth we could, because they have absorbed it all. Anyway, got to get out of here. Please support the program however you can. politicsandright.com/newsletter is how you support the program. And again, become a paid subscriber. You get a chance to get all our read all our books online in the Substack. And I got to get out of here. Sorry for going over, but you know, it just got to me. My name is Egberto Willies. I love you all. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter.